This is Mike and C, and this is another episode of You Can't Handle the Truth. If you're liking our episodes, please be sure to like them physically and subscribe. So what is our topic for today?
So what to do after an accident. If you're in an accident in Florida, what you need to know, what steps you need to take before you're in an accident.
Before?
Yep, to inform people of what to be in the best situation you could possibly be in if you're actually involved in an accident.
Right.
What steps to take after you're in an accident. And then, the process of reaching out to an attorney, because if you're on a Florida road, there's things that you need. If you're driving on Florida roads, there's things that you need to know.
Right. I think the before is a good point. I mean, here's my analysis this is based on experience. It's, what do you need before the accident? Well, you check out your insurance coverages. I mean, look at your declarations page. It's a list of coverages. It's located in different places. I have Geico, for example. Geico has an app. You go on the app, you click on policy docs, and it'll show a declaration. A declaration is your coverages. A lot of people come to see me and they say, well, I have full coverage. Well, full coverage is the minimum. Full coverage means you have a property damage liability to cover the damage to a vehicle if you cause the accident, the other vehicle, and personal injury protection coverage, which covers your medical expenses up to $10,000, regardless of whether you're at fault. But one thing you need to look at, we can talk about this for days, but uninsured motorist coverage is what you need.
If you don't remember anything, remember that. Remember that when you're buying insurance here in Florida, if you're talking to an agent, if you're doing it on the app, if you're using one of those predatory apps that's supposed to save you money, if it doesn't say that you have uninsured motorist coverage, then you need to go call somebody to talk to an agent and make sure you have it on your coverage, because essentially that's going to make sure that you carry all the additional coverages that you're supposed to be carrying, because you have to carry those in order to carry uninsured motorist coverage. And that's just the most important thing. If you don't take away anything else from this episode, carry uninsured motorist coverage if you're a Florida driver on Florida roads.
And one point I want to make, because I have friends that ask me this all the time, well, uninsured motorist coverage, what does it cover? Well, it covers you in the event that you sustain bodily injury and the driver that's at fault doesn't have bodily injury coverage, which is not required, or doesn't have enough. So the smart Alex will always say, well, I'm a health insurance. Yeah, you have health insurance. You're right. You can go to a doctor and have it covered. But what it's not going to cover are the elements of damage of a claim. For example, future medical bills. Future medical bills are things that are covered in a personal injury accident. There's more things, and if you want to talk about it in depth, call me up, and we won't charge you for the consult. Just let us know if you want to consult just about your coverages, because I'm more than willing to offer it, because there's a lot of there's a lack of knowledge out there about what uninsured motorist coverage is, because insurance companies don't want to give it to you because they're insuring someone else. So think about that. And what about after? Like, what about after the accident? What someone gets into an accident, what are they going to do? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so after you've been involved in an accident, as long as everybody's okay, as long as you're okay, the first thing you should do is call 911. The first thing you should do is call 911. Go ahead, get the police to get dispatched out there, because ultimately one of the most important things you can have moving forward after an accident is a crash report. Because if you don't have a crash report, it's going to be a difficult conversation when you're talking to your insurance company, when you're talking about liability, because ultimately the other party could say whatever they want to their insurance company, and then there is no essentially third party breakdown of it.
So how do they get a crash report? Can you tell them?
Yeah. So, you have to call 911. You have to get officers out to where your accident is.
Highway patrol.
Highway patrol. Sometimes the local police will do it. It depends. So it depends on where exactly you get in the accident. A lot of stuff we face too, people will be in a parking lot, and police officers will say that they can't create a crash report because they're on a private property. Right. I don't know if that's actually a specific rule or law. It seems to be a rule of thumb.
That's what they do.
But if I would, I'd still push for them. I'd still push to get your crash report.
I think it's a manner of practice. It's just they're not gonna private lot. We're not gonna do it.
Right.
Keeps them less involved.
Right. So, but ultimately, still push to have them, ultimately write some sort of report for you, because it's one of the hardest things is when a client calls you and there's no crash report, because ultimately that's a lot of times what these insurance companies are looking to provide them the information about what happened, regardless if it's admissible in trial, regardless if it really matters for the purposes of your case. It's helpful to have when you're bringing these claims to these insurance companies. And a lot of times they're waiting on that crash report. And if there's not that crash report, then it potentially could become he said, she said, and it's problematic.
It's problematic. It's more essential now than ever. I mean, I had a case recently where it's clear liability, and I'm going to call them on it, but because the laws have changed and there's different, standards now for a comparative fault, insurance companies are looking at everything now, every single thing. If there's no traffic report, you're making it more difficult on yourself. Even if you're not even injured, if you want them to repair your vehicle, just think about that. Think about repairing your vehicle. Most people are going to at least want their vehicle repaired by the at-fault party, but they're making it more difficult now because the laws have changed with comparative fault. So, for example, if an insurance company thinks that you as the victim of the accident or the person that got hit, they think that you were 75% at fault, they can just delay it and delay it and delay it. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to go through your own insurance company. Yeah. And if you don't have collision coverage on your own policy, then you are SOL on luck. So things like that, you got to think about ahead of time. It's like, it's never a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah, never a problem until it's exactly.
But it's getting more difficult. It's like homeowners claims. Auto claims are getting more difficult.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. It is absolutely getting more difficult. I used to, a couple of years ago, it never would have been an issue if my client had a crash report or not. It just makes it a little easier, but it wouldn't been an issue. But now it is absolutely 100% an issue. Yeah. And they will, even the big insurance companies, the big five, will drag as long as they can to establish some sort of liability. Let's say if they can't get a hold of their insured and things like that. So it's really essential to have a crash report. So I would say even a couple of years ago, I wouldn't even necessarily say that the first thing you needed to do was call 911. But now, if no one was terribly injured or anything like that, but now you absolutely should call 911. You absolutely should have police come out. You should wait on them. Sometimes that might take a long time, but it's absolutely worth the wait, because most people don't experience injury or pain at the crash site, right? Yeah. Your adrenaline is going, you've just been in an accident, you're confused, you don't know what to do. And so you're not really thinking about what's hurt on your body. That's something that might come after the fact. So if you do end up bringing some sort of claim, and for property damage purposes, you want to have that crash report.
That's usually one. Sorry, I mean to cut you off. That's usually one of the biggest things that our clients will tell me. Is the ones I'm familiar with. I mean, they want to. Not only are they coming for bodily injury, but they're like, "Who's going to fix my car?" It's a valid question. If you're out of a vehicle, you're out of a vehicle. Get rental car coverage too.
Yeah, because
that's another thing.
The claims process is very confusing and challenging, and sometimes you might have as many as 4 claims open at one time and have 4 totally different adjusters. So you've got, 2, sometimes you could have 3 insurance companies calling you and multiple adjusters from those different insurance companies. And for you trying to distinguish who's who and what's what is very confusing. And that's a lot of times when we get the phone calls is people are just like, I don't even know, how to navigate this. Someone's not giving me something I feel like I should have.
Exactly.
And that's what we step in.
That's what it is.
But in addition to that, while you're at the crash scene, what's also very important, if you're physically able to, you want to make sure you get photos of the scene, photos of the other vehicle, photos of your vehicle. As many photos as you can take is essential. One thing I'd like to add too, within, you feeling safe at a crash scene, as long as you're feeling safe enough to do this, if the other driver who maybe caused the accident or maybe didn't cause the accident is acting up or being irate or not acting right, feel free to take out your camera, record them. Yeah. Because ultimately that is something that, we're going to want to use later on throughout the course of your claim. In addition to taking photos, you want to make sure too you're getting that insurance information. The police should get that, but you will be, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you might be surprised how many times people take off even after, they realize everybody's okay. And they take off. So make sure you get that insurance information. If you can't get that, then at least take a photo of their tag. At least take a photo of their tag, because then you can, a personal injury attorney, once you call and reach out to them, we can find out who owned the vehicle, who has the vehicle, and we can kind of go from there with that tag information. In addition to that, as soon as you're able to, it's important to seek medical treatment. I don't think I left anything out in between.
Well, just a couple of things.
The highlights, the most important things.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to report the claim at some point to your carrier, because there's a duty to report your claim. You want to try to report it, but also there's a lot of ways that we can actually record these crash details and more thoroughly. I ran into an investigator the other day that I work with a lot, and he was telling me that there was an ex-cop who was hired by a firm to run out and do an investigation. And the guy was a cop for I don't know how many years, but he didn't know what a dash cam was or a vet data recorder. Look these up, because I'm by no means the expert, but a lot of times nowadays we have the benefit of getting these things recorded. I had a smart aleck client of mine, I know her very well, and she was like, well, isn't that going to eliminate all the claims? I said, actually, it's probably going to help.
Very big.
The dash cams that I've been counting so far show us what happened. And lo and behold, somebody's usually at fault, and there's some, mistaken, I don't know what it is, they forget, or they don't remember what happened. But guess what? The video doesn't lie. So I've had witnesses that have been stopped, or just, they decide to volunteer. It doesn't happen all the time, but they'll have a dash cam. And then you got this person that was at fault saying, well, that's not what happened. And next thing you know, they're running a red light, they're causing the accident. So it helps in all aspects of a claim to have that. So those are things that, nowadays with the modern era, I'm assuming most of our vehicles are going to be equipped with some type of event data recorder, but you can purchase these things, right? You can get a dash cam, and you can, it's not going to always get everything, but it's better than nothing, and it may get something.
Super beneficial to have a dash cam if you're thinking about having anything. That's probably really important to have, especially if you're on the road a lot. If you're an Uber driver, if you do deliveries like that, it's going to be very important.
Right.
You also mentioned witnesses. It's something I forgot to talk about. If there are witnesses that stop, sometimes it's very hard for witnesses to stay around. Don't anticipate that the police officers are going to get any of the witnesses' information. If somebody stops and says that they saw what happened and they come up to you, it's usually because it was in your benefit what they saw.
Get their name and address.
Get their name,
email,
and
everything.
Get as much information as you can so you can contact them, or your attorney can contact them after the fact.
Right. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll have clients, I'll call, do their intake, they'll tell me, hey, there was a witness, she did X, Y, and Z, or they did X, Y, and Z, and I'll get the crash report, no witnesses listed. And that's a lost person
Happens a lot.
with a lost third-party perspective that might be really helpful in determining liability. So,
and that's when any accident, any kind of accident in the world that you can get into, a sports accident or a boating accident, who are the witnesses, who are the people that can, because you got to think bias here. There's you always naturally are going to say something that favors yourself, whether you like it or you don't like it. The other side's probably going to have their own version, but then the witness's version is always the most intriguing, because that's the one where, I don't have a dog in the fight, I just saw this and this is what happened. Your case is won sometimes with an independent witness that can corroborate your story.
Absolutely.
So,
witness statements are the most important statements.
Sounds so intuitive, but I can't tell you how many times people, who saw this? Oh, and they'll tell me all these people that saw this accident. Did you get any of their names? No.
Yeah. So just to follow quickly, seek medical treatment as soon as it's necessary. You need to. You don't necessarily have to go to the hospital if you don't feel like you have any broken bones or a concussion. The hospital really isn't going to do much for you, because that's for emergencies.
Right.
Go to urgent care, get that initial treatment, find somebody who actually takes, or call your insurance, see who potentially sees accident patients. Google, chiropractors who end up usually being gatekeepers around you.
Use your claim number too, because a lot of people ask that. How do I use this? You can use your auto claim number that you get from after reporting your claim. You can just use it. It's personal injury protection. You may not have the benefit of any insurance information from the other side. At the beginning, and that insurance is there for you. It's there to help you.
And I do want to say this too, because I want to follow up. You mentioned reporting it to your insurance company, reporting the accident to your insurance company. Yes, you do have to, report to your insurance company, but I want to be cautionary when I talk about contacting your insurance company, because if you know that there's going to be an issue, it's probably going to be best that you contact an attorney before you contact your insurance company, because there are multiple things that they're going to be able to help you with in order to then, again, bring your claim. Because people who aren't aware that insurance companies take recorded statement in a predatory way, then they may say things that are totally taken out of context that could ultimately limit them being able to pursue a claim. So I don't necessarily agree with contacting your insurance company right away. I think you should call an attorney.
Well, the point is
first.
you got to do it quickly.
But yes, but you have to do it quickly.
Yeah, the point there was that you can do whatever you want, but if you don't contact someone that's gonna report a claim, I guess is maybe the way to say it.
But it
At
doesn't
some
have to
point.
be immediately, it doesn't have to be same day, it doesn't
Right.
have to be right away.
It has to
I would
be
say
a
reasonably
reasonable
within
time.
48 hours is
Yeah.
reasonable, and
Right.
there's enough personal injury attorneys that you can talk to an attorney before you contact your insurance company.
Right, but you get a lot of people that come in and it's a week later and they haven't reported their claim, and that's something you gotta make sure that you think about, because, if you haven't spoken to someone about how the process works, you need to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, because usually the first person to report that information gets kind of treated as gold. So, depending on what they say, so it's always good to be the first person to report.
Right.
But then again, it's important though, if you know that there's some issue or something problematic that occurred, it's not necessarily the worst thing to reach out to an attorney first. Make sure that you have all the information you need so that you can report a claim and then ultimately not have any barriers or issues moving forward. So.
And for any of these attorneys, just so you know, it's almost universally a free consult.
Yes.
You're not gonna be charged for that part of it, that part of the initial investigation. I mean, that's kind of, honestly, if you don't get offered a free consult on a personal injury claim, you probably should go see someone else.
Absolutely, 100%.
So-
If you've been in an accident, or if you're trying to bring a personal injury claim, you call an attorney and they're trying to charge you a consultation fee, hang up immediately and call somebody. And call us, all right? Call us.
And anytime you want to talk coverages too, if you weren't in an accident and you want to just talk, hey, what should I be doing in terms of coverage, give us a call.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
be glad to talk to you.
Yep. Comments, if there's anything specifically you want us to talk about in between, after, the accident, what happens in the pursuit of a claim, anything you want us to talk about, leave in the comments, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.